What I'm about to explain today may genuinely change the way some of you think about stress. Because one of the most dangerous health problems affecting adults over 50 right now often hides behind symptoms people dismiss every single day. Fatigue, chest tightness, dizziness, racing thoughts, brain fog, shortness of breath, trouble sleeping, a pounding heart, feeling emotionally overwhelmed for no reason, and almost instantly, people tell themselves, it's probably just stress. Now, sometimes they're right. Stress absolutely affects the body. Modern life is exhausting. The nervous system was never designed for nonstop notifications, chronic worry, financial pressure, poor sleep, processed food, loneliness, and constant stimulation all at once. But here's the part many people never hear. There are serious physical health problems that quietly imitate stress so convincingly that people can spend months, sometimes years, assuming they're simply anxious, burned out, aging, or emotionally overwhelmed while the real issue continues progressing silently underneath. And honestly, I've seen this happen far more often than most people realize. My name is Dr. Adam Scott Levin, and for more than 15 years, I've worked with adults dealing with cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, chronic inflammation, nervous system disorders, sleep disruption, hormonal imbalance, and stress-related health changes that often overlap in surprisingly deceptive ways. And today, I want to walk you through something incredibly important: why dangerous health conditions are so often mistaken for just stress. Why the body creates symptoms that feel emotional even when they may be physical. Which warning signs deserve more attention. And how to approach all of this calmly without falling into fear or panic. Because this conversation is not about convincing people that every symptom is dangerous. It's about understanding that the body is deeply interconnected. And once you truly understand that, you begin looking at symptoms very differently. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. How old are you? And have you ever experienced a period where you felt constantly anxious, exhausted, shaky, emotionally overwhelmed, or mentally off, only to later discover there was something physical contributing to it? Drop your age and experience in the comments below because honestly, many people watching videos like this realize for the first time that they are not alone. Now let's begin with one of the biggest misunderstandings in modern health culture. People often separate emotional symptoms from physical symptoms, as if stress belongs to the mind, while illness belongs to the body. But biologically, that distinction is not nearly as clean as people think. Stress hormones affect heart rate, blood pressure, breathing patterns, blood sugar, inflammation, sleep cycles, muscle tension, digestion, hormones, immune signaling, brain chemistry. And because all of those same systems are involved in real medical conditions, the overlap becomes incredibly confusing. That's why doctors don't simply look at isolated symptoms, they look at patterns. I remember one patient in his early 60s who came into clinic convinced he was simply burned out. He described episodes of shakiness, sweating, sudden weakness, racing heartbeat, and overwhelming panic sensations that seemed to appear randomly throughout the day. He thought retirement stress was finally catching up with him. But after further evaluation, we discovered his blood sugar was dropping unpredictably because of poorly controlled diabetes combined with irregular eating patterns. His body was repeatedly releasing adrenaline to compensate. What he interpreted emotionally as panic was actually a physiological stress response happening inside the body. And once his glucose levels stabilized, those panic attacks decreased dramatically. Now, that does not mean every anxious feeling comes from blood sugar problems. Not at all. But it shows how deeply physical and emotional symptoms can intertwine. And honestly, this is where many people get trapped. They either assume everything is stress, or they assume everything is dangerous. The healthiest approach usually lives somewhere in the middle. Now, let's talk about the heart for a moment, because this is another area where confusion happens constantly, especially in adults over 50. Many people expect heart problems to look dramatic, crushing chest pain, collapse, Hollywood-style emergencies, but certain cardiovascular conditions can appear far more subtly than that. Shortness of breath, sudden exhaustion, pressure in the chest, dizziness, sweating, fatigue after small activities, a racing heartbeat while resting, trouble recovering after climbing stairs, and because stress itself can create similar sensations, many people dismiss these symptoms far longer than they should. I remember a woman in her late 50s who repeatedly told herself she was just anxious. Every evening she developed chest pressure and an uneasy, restless feeling while walking upstairs. She assumed it was emotional stress because she had been caring for an aging parent for years, but eventually testing revealed significant coronary artery disease, and what shocked her most was that she never experienced the dramatic chest pain she expected heart disease to cause. That happens more often than people realize. Now again, this is not about panic. Most chest discomfort is not automatically a heart attack, but persistent unexplained physical changes deserve calm medical evaluation rather than endless self-diagnosis online. And that distinction matters enormously. Now here's something even more surprising. Thyroid dysfunction can imitate anxiety so convincingly that many people spend years misunderstanding what's happening to them. When thyroid hormones become dysregulated, the nervous system often speeds up dramatically. People may develop heart palpitations, heat intolerance, trembling, insomnia, weight changes, irritability, brain fog, fatigue, restlessness, and overwhelming nervous energy. From the outside, it can look exactly like chronic stress or panic disorder. I remember one patient who described feeling internally restless for nearly a year. She thought she was developing severe anxiety, but blood testing later showed significant hyperthyroidism, and once properly treated, many of the sensations she believed were purely emotional began stabilizing. Stories like this are one reason experienced doctors try to evaluate the entire body, not just isolated symptoms. Now, let's talk about something modern medicine is becoming increasingly concerned about: sleep deprivation. Because poor sleep itself can create symptoms so intense that people genuinely believe something catastrophic is happening. Sleep loss increases cortisol, it destabilizes blood sugar, it amplifies inflammation, it increases emotional reactivity, it affects blood pressure, it disrupts immune signaling. And after enough nights of poor sleep, the nervous system can begin living in a constant state of hyperalertness. People feel shaky, emotionally fragile, mentally foggy, physically exhausted but unable to relax, sensitive to stress, easily overwhelmed. And once fear enters the picture, the cycle intensifies. The less people sleep, the worse symptoms become. The worse symptoms become, the more anxious they feel. The more anxious they feel, the harder sleep becomes. Doctors see this constantly now, especially in adults dealing with caregiving stress, loneliness, financial strain, excessive screen exposure, chronic health worries, and non-stop mental stimulation. And honestly, one of the most dangerous parts about modern stress is that many people no longer recognize what true recovery even feels like. Their nervous system stays activated for so long that being tense starts feeling normal. That's a problem, because chronic nervous system activation affects far more than emotions. Now let's discuss something that almost nobody talks about enough: chronic inflammation. Because low-grade inflammation has become deeply connected to metabolic disease, cardiovascular dysfunction, obesity, insulin resistance, poor sleep, chronic fatigue, and even mood changes. Inflammation affects the brain, hormones, energy production, stress response pathways, the nervous system, and sometimes people living with chronic inflammation describe feeling constantly uneasy inside their own body without understanding why. Fatigue, restlessness, brain fog, low resilience, poor recovery, sleep disruption, heart-pounding sensations, low motivation, emotionally off. This is one reason modern medicine increasingly focuses on lifestyle stability rather than quick symptom suppression alone. Walking, better sleep, blood sugar control, whole foods, stress reduction, social connection, consistent routines. These things sound simple, but biologically, they stabilize many of the exact systems that become dysregulated in both chronic disease and anxiety disorders. And honestly, that may be one of the biggest hidden truths in modern health right now. The body functions best with stability, not constant extremes, not endless panic, not obsessive symptom searching, stability. Now, I want to pause for a second because this next part may be one of the most important things I say in this entire video. Not every anxious feeling means something dangerous is happening. But not every physical symptom should automatically be dismissed as stress either. That balance matters because fear itself can become unhealthy. I've seen people fall into terrifying cycles of constantly monitoring every heartbeat, every sensation, every ache, every moment of dizziness, convincing themselves something catastrophic is happening. That level of hypervigilance can seriously damage quality of life. At the same time, I've also seen people ignore symptoms for years because they kept telling themselves, "I'm probably just stressed." Neither extreme is healthy. The healthiest people are usually not the ones obsessively monitoring every sensation. And they're also not the people ignoring their body completely. They're the people willing to pay attention calmly, seek evaluation when appropriate, and support the body consistently over time. That approach protects both physical health and mental health together. And honestly, in today's world, that balance may be more important than ever. Because modern stress is real. The nervous system is under enormous pressure now. People are sleeping less, moving less, socializing less, spending more time isolated, eating more ultra-processed foods, living under constant stimulation. And the body responds to all of it. But the answer is not panic. The answer is awareness, calm awareness, and that's a very different mindset. Now here's something else many adults over 50 may not realize. As we age, the body often becomes less resilient to chronic physiological stress. Recovery slows down, sleep becomes lighter, hormonal regulation changes, muscle mass declines more easily, blood sugar becomes more sensitive, inflammatory signaling can increase. That means symptoms that once felt manageable in your 30s or 40s may begin affecting the body differently later in life, which is why persistent fatigue, dizziness, chest pressure, breathlessness, dramatic sleep changes, or unexplained physical symptoms deserve attention, especially if they continue repeating over time. Again, not fear, awareness. Because one of the most dangerous things people can do is normalize symptoms that their body keeps trying to repeat. The body communicates through patterns. That's how medicine often works. Patterns over time. And experienced physicians learn to pay close attention to those patterns. Now, let me be very clear about something important. Watching videos online should never replace proper medical care. YouTube can educate. It can increase awareness. It can help people ask better questions, but it cannot diagnose individual viewers. And honestly, one of the worst habits modern health culture has created is endless self-diagnosis online. People begin connecting every symptom to terrifying worst-case scenarios. That only fuels more nervous system activation. Instead, if something feels persistently unusual, disruptive, or progressively worse, talk to a qualified medical professional who can evaluate the full picture properly. That's always the safest approach. Now, before we finish, I want to return to the central idea behind this entire conversation. The dangerous health problem millions mistake for just stress is not one single disease. It's the misunderstanding itself. It's the assumption that the body and mind are separate. They're not. The nervous system connects everything. And because of that, emotional symptoms can become physical. Physical symptoms can feel emotional. And many serious health conditions quietly overlap with stress in ways that confuse people for months or even years. That's why balance matters so much. Not fear, not denial. Balance. The goal is not to become paranoid about symptoms. The goal is to become more aware of your body without becoming controlled by fear. And honestly, some of the healthiest adults I've ever met are not people with perfect health habits. They're people who learned how to listen to their body calmly, people who support the basics consistently: sleep, movement, nutrition, stress management, connection, routine, medical follow-up when necessary. Those simple things may not sound dramatic, but biologically, they stabilize some of the most important systems in the human body, and over time, that stability matters more than most people realize. So here's the final takeaway I want you to remember. If your body feels persistently different, if symptoms keep repeating, if something feels unusual, or if physical sensations are interfering with daily life, don't panic. But don't endlessly dismiss everything as just stress either. Talk to a qualified healthcare professional. Look at the full picture. Consider both emotional and physical contributors, because sometimes stress truly is stress, and sometimes the body is trying to tell you something deeper. The key is learning how to listen without fear.